My sister accused me of the worst thing imaginable, and it cost me a decade of my life. Now, as the truth comes to light, she pleads, "Eric, please forgive me, I was scared. Can I forgive the sister who branded me a monster?" Man, I've been staring at this blank screen for like an hour, trying to figure out how to start. I guess I should just get into it. This is pretty heavy stuff, and it's taken me years to be ready to write it all down. So yeah, I'm Eric, 33, male now, and this story is about how my sister, I'll call her Anne, completely destroyed my life with a lie, and what happened after that. But to understand everything, you got to know what things were like before it all went bad. Growing up, Anne and I were super close, like probably closer than most brothers and sisters, even with the 4-year age gap. We were basically best friends. I know that sounds weird now, given everything that happened. But back then it was just normal, you know. I was never the smart kid in school, always struggled with grades, barely passed most classes, but I was really into electronics, not like programming or computers, more like taking things apart and putting them back together. I started with old TV remotes and radios I'd find at yard sales. By the time I was 16, I had this whole setup in my room: soldering iron, multimeters, boxes full of circuit boards and wires. My parents thought it was weird, especially since I'd spend hours in there with the door locked. Yeah, that becomes important later. But Anne, she got it. She was like 10 when I started getting serious about it, and she'd just sit in my room for hours watching me work. She'd ask all these questions about what different parts did, why I was connecting certain wires, that kind of thing. Sometimes she'd help me organize my parts or hold stuff while I soldered. It was our thing, you know. Our parents definitely played favorites though. Anne was this perfect kid, straight A's, gymnastics team, student council, the whole package. Meanwhile, I was barely passing classes and spending all my time either in my room with electronics or at the skate park. But Anne always had my back. Like this one time in my junior year, I got caught smoking behind the gym. Instead of letting me get suspended, Anne made up this whole story about how I was just holding the cigarette for someone else who ran away. She even did the whole crying thing to the principal about how I was trying to turn my life around. And a suspension would ruin everything. The principal totally bought it. She helped me with homework too. She was way better at explaining stuff than my teachers. Like, she'd break down math problems in a way that actually made sense to me. Probably the only reason I graduated high school. TBH, I looked out for her too, being the big brother. I was pretty protective, maybe too protective, looking back. Any guy who showed interest in her had to deal with me first. I wasn't trying to be a jerk about it. I just didn't want some random dudes messing with my little sister. Even when I started getting into trouble, staying out late, hanging with the wrong crowd, Anne never judged me. She'd cover for me with our parents, make excuses when I missed curfew. One time, I came home at 3 a.m., and she was sitting on the porch waiting for me. Just wanted to make sure I got home safe. Looking back now, maybe we were too close. Maybe that's why it was so easy for people to believe what she said later. But back then, it just felt normal. She was my sister, my best friend, the only person who really got me. Our parents tried to get me interested in normal stuff. They'd sign me up for sports teams or after-school clubs, but I always went back to my electronics.